This episode was produced by Founders Hive, a community of successful startup founders, industry experts, and investors promoting entrepreneurship in Switzerland and helping early-stage business concepts get ready for seed-stage investment. Founders Hive is a partner of the entrepreneurship training program empowered by InnoSwiss, the Swiss innovation agency supporting SMEs, startups, research institutions, and other Swiss organizations in their research and development activities. Click the link in the show notes to find out more about both these initiatives.
I think expansion does not fix a weak product. It should not come from ego, it should come from demand, actually.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Merle.
Welcome to another episode of the Swisspreneur podcast. Today we'll have one of our opposing view episodes. So I have two guests with me. Maybe you can both introduce yourself very quickly. Habiba, do you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Habiba. I am the CEO and the founder of HappyPot.
And to my left we have
Milan, co-founder and chief AI officer of Nextesy.
Today we want to talk about global dominance versus local dominance, or expansion versus staying local in the market. But before we do that, of course, I would love to know what your startups are actually all about. So maybe, Habiba, do you want to explain in a sentence what HappyPot actually does?
A HappyPot turns the chaos of collecting money with friends into a 2-minute experience.
Nice, that really was one sentence. Cool, thank you.
I tried.
What about you, Milan?
Nextesy building AI native business administration app to kill the repetitive manual processes in accounting and other back office work.
So I would say both things that the normal person knows about and has done before. So I'm very happy to have both of you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to start with you, Milan. So as founder and chief AI officer of Nextesy, you said you're building business administration, automation, data-driven decisions, so all around these topics. What made you choose such a broad problem from the start?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say kind of on the broadness of the idea, I always had this kind of urge to build something really great, like of immense value to the world and applicable to many use cases. And I think when it comes really to why this domain, it kind of found me as well, because my background is also in finance and economics, as well as in AI. So first I started out at HighSgate and I moved to ETH where I studied machine learning. And I would say it kind of really strikes in between a rare combination of me knowing accounting and all of the processes behind it, and having built like AI models during my PhD, which are kind of production ready value that you can put to the customers. So I think it's kind of combining two things that I'm really good at. And on the second part, it's really something that the customer is a community that is really dear to me, like entrepreneurs. So we're building this out for business owners, for accountants. And I think this is kind of something which I can relate to.
Can I ask, when did you actually start to form the idea into a business?
Yeah, so I would say beginning of 23.
Okay.
Something like this. And then by the end of the year, we had the company founded and we kicked it off. But it was a lot of prep work as well, because as you said, when starting from a really big idea that is applicable everywhere, you just need to do the planning as well to have the right foundation at the beginning and to know what is the right path.
Interesting. And Habiba, you're founder and CEO of HappyPot. What made you decide to build this company? And then why did you decide to build it in Switzerland?
Well, I did not choose Switzerland. Switzerland gave me the problem I wanted to solve. I was always surprised to see how old school group money collection were in Switzerland. And that was the trigger point where the problem started here, and we wanted to solve that made sense to solve it here first. Yeah.
What what was it like? How did you come in contact with that topic even?
Well, I was before I was the glue in the group, in my group of friends, always organizing the birthday gifts. In my corporate job, organizing also the farewell gifts. And every time I found myself spending a lot of time chasing people, receiving money in different channels, and then tracking everything in Excel. And it was really like almost a full-time job for some days. So I wanted to solve the problem for myself first. Mm-hmm. And unexpectedly something happened. I've done just a platform for myself and my friends online, and people I did not know started using it. And then I realized there was a real market need behind it. And that was not only my problem. That was the problem of other people in Switzerland.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Love that story. So let's get into the topic of global versus local. Milan, so you're building AI-powered operating systems, right? And we, like you also mentioned, you have done the work before. We all know this annoying, repetitive admin work that just takes so much time. So thank you for getting on with that topic. But does a topic like this, so something that everybody has to deal with, does that make you think internationally right from the beginning? Or did you right from the beginning think this is going to be tricky internationally because every market works and thinks differently?
Yep. So basically, as you said, like we all love these processes when they're being done by somebody else. And like
Yes.
We're building that somebody else in a digital form, the AI part. I'd say from the start, we already had a global ambition because this problem is shared and really not solved by almost any market. And it's also like the solutions come up with the technology. Like if you wanted to solve this problem, quote unquote, 20 years ago, you have a limit on what the tech can do at a certain point. And I think there is a quite radical shift that happened 2-3 years ago with what is enabled to do in the space. And we really saw that it is a global problem and everybody's experiencing it. And I think a lot of companies are really focused on solving it first for the enterprises, so for the bigger companies, whereas we really took upon the SMB approach to really kind of work out the pain where it's felt the most, because on the bigger level it's more about kind of cost savings, right? So you have companies that have employees doing this, and then basically they're looking into how much time it takes them, do they need to hire more people as they grow, etc. But when you look at SMBs, it's usually people grinding and at the same time having to deal with admin work. Reports showing like more than 30% of the time goes on admin work. And I would say globally, estimated hundreds of billions of productive work goes wasted on these repetitive manual procedures. So not just admin, but repetitive stuff that can really be partially or fully automated by modern technology. So yeah, we had the global picture in mind right away. But of course, we started in our home market, Switzerland.
How can I imagine the software?
Imagine it like this. There is one place where you can keep all of your company data and do all of the functionalities that you need to operate your business. You can write invoices, you can do accounting, you can do payroll, you can upload your documents, have them archived, you have banking connections and transactions that match, and all of this is built in an AI native way, such that AI can easily plug into to do the repetitive stuff and also to extract value in terms of data, because we as humans were kind of limited in the scope. How much data can we analyze? And AI is much better in that. We're much better in creative thinking and kind of making connections on a higher level from concepts. So I think basically if you see two most valuable parts is you don't have application fatigue anymore. So you can have everything in one place. And by having everything in one place, you have AI that you can ask any question about your business and you will get an answer. And you do it just from one user interface. And this is something that's been really missing in the market because there are companies doing it, of course. It's a big market and hence also has competition. But building out the entire layer of these functions is super hard. And the data layers that have been built over 10, 20 years. And none of these are currently satisfying the market because they were built at a time when AI wasn't existing in a modern form. So they're trying to retroactively fit AI onto these legacy software, and it's not really working. So to really work out the problem, you need to start from the data layer and then build out the technology, the smart technology. We call it like product in two parts. So one is we see kind of entrepreneurs as heroes, like as Iron Man. And what do you need kind of to fly? You need a suit, that is our data layer, and you need Jarvis. Like you need both. Like Jarvis doesn't work on on an old suit, right? So yeah.
And Habiba, you just mentioned that basically Switzerland kind of gave you the problem, or you saw that it was here. But then also the technology that you use is very focused on Switzerland, right? So you use Twint, which for our listeners that are not from Switzerland is like the Swiss PayPal, you could say.
Yeah.
The bank transfers, also local trust, I guess. So it kind of made sense that you built it here, but doesn't that also make it very difficult to transfer into other markets?
There, I would say both. So I think the problem is global, but the solution has to be local. So everywhere around the world, people celebrate birthdays, farewell, and organize group gifts. However, what's different is how people interact with the money, who they trust, how they pay. And that's why I don't see Switzerland as a limitation. I see it as a starting point. And we can solve this problem in any place of the world, but we have to do it really, the solution has to be really adapted to this specific country. And in the case of Switzerland, it's 4 cultures, so we have to adapt each time to the 4 cultures. So it's even harder. Yeah,
True.
That's a very exigent laboratory, and that's why I think to apply a solution, I think it's good to be good in one market than to be global in and average in 10 markets all over the world. Yeah.
And how do you do that though? So how do you transfer it? I mean, we can use Switzerland as an example. I mean, you just mentioned the 4 cultures. How do you translate it even within this country into these 4 different cultures? How do you do that?
So initially the French part was really our main. We were very dominant in the French part. And we started to learn a bit more about what makes a bit the German part, maybe attracted more, and that was really hard because it's very related to the culture and the trust. So, and this takes a lot of time and a lot of years. So it's first is building the trust, then it's a lot of word to mouth, and also sharing stories that talk to this specific audience. There is a lot of action to be done, but the most important point is to be able to earn the trust of each culture and each location. Yeah,
That's interesting. I like what you said with telling the stories that kind of work.
Yes,
for
exactly.
each of the cultures. It's very important
because people, they can project themselves easier when they feel close to the story, other client story.
Yeah.
And
now this is interesting because I just noticed we kind of have a different starting point, but then at the end, this translation into other markets, this I would think is something that both of you have to deal with, because I mean, it's not just the way of working, right? We have different regulations, all the data laws are very different. So how do you translate also your technologies into the different markets?
That question I get often, as you can imagine. Basically, what we have, let's say, as an advantage is learnings in one market are really transferable to others.
Okay.
And each market in itself is a multi-billion potential. So we really kind of not just picked something where we had a global ambition from the start, but only the Swiss market is multi-billion. And yes, true, when you go outside the Swiss market, and the further you go, even geographically, the more adaptation is needed. But the adaptation itself on these kind of core business processes, it is limited. So it is out of the scope of our entire application around 80 to 90% is actually transferable across borders, whereas some parts like payroll, especially like accounting, these things you would need to do country by country. And of course, it creates kind of challenges in itself. But again, the overcoming of this challenge unlocks just each market, which is again huge in size. So I think while adaptation is needed when we go outside Switzerland, it's justified by the fact that you invest a bit more in it, but then you unlock a huge market. But yeah, that is one of the things that are the main challenges moving forward.
And how would you react to the statement of Habiba, better be brilliant in one market than average in multiple?
I think I like the statement, but we come from the same perspective actually, because we also want to dominate Switzerland first. Because I think if you win in your home market and you show you can do it, if you cannot win in your home market, then internationally it's going to be really hard. And it's kind of a good foundation to build first in the home market, to have all the learnings, to really show the model on how it scales, and then you attack other markets. So we are of the same paradigm in that sense. We are thinking internationally and transforming entire economies, but first doing it in Switzerland. That's for sure.
So you do both actually. So then you are doing both, Switzerland and internationally. Yeah?
Yes, but
at the same time, yeah.
Exactly, but international, as said, like 80 to 90% of the product is transferable. So when we build product, we actually have in mind of how this will look for a general market, and there are a lot of similarities. But today we are only in Swiss market, and we are kind of building out the tech that will service Switzerland first, and then going outside is the adaptation of that technology. So I think, as you said, the first goal is to be the best in one market, and then move from there. Because if you're targeting the same customer base, and if you're not the best in your, let's say, home market, or at least have proof that it works in your home market, then I don't think you have much things doing outside, right?
And I think that's also a good justification, right? Because very often AI companies are like kind of pushed into the global mindset. Like this needs to work everywhere, kind of, because it is AI, it kind of works everywhere. But I like this to say like, yeah, but if it doesn't work in my home market, then how will it work somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it also depends on what type of AI company. Because if you're building technology, like new models, then it should be usually globally applicable. Although there are niches in which you kind of develop this technology just for a specific subset of market, which is fine. But if you're building also on the application layer, and we're doing both. So we're having our own AI models trained, producing the technology, but also the application layer is for a market specific. And as you said, it's bounded by regulation. I think the process of the technology that we're building is the same when we move to the next market. So the core value stays and it's globally applicable. But the thing is, you have these, now statisticians speaking in me, you have different data distributions, right? So the data distribution on how processes are done in Switzerland might not be the same as in Germany, and might not be the same as in the USA. But the process is quite similar. So you can retrain it with new data, and that's what I meant by having learnings from one market, you're faster to go to international. So we're not starting from scratch, we're actually adapting what we have in the realm of 15%.
I was just wondering, we talked a lot about the product and the adaptability of your products basically in other markets. But I wonder, is there also a different setup in terms of team, in terms of values and company structure that you have at the beginning already implemented to stay, for example, very Swiss focused, and with that I guess also the four cultures come into this, versus already thinking globally?
You want to start?
Both of you.
Well, you don't know what to say, do you want to start?
What a gentleman. So I think it's on our side, it's very important was very important for us to keep the data, the payment data in Switzerland, and even the development. Until now, everything is done in Switzerland, even the development, the team. And slowly we noticed then it means a huge cost, because development cost in Switzerland a lot, specifically for a startup. And then we realize actually what is important is that the user, whatever concern the users, can stay in Switzerland, but maybe the code can be outsourced. And we are starting to think how to optimize the cost. But initially, when we started, our rule was nothing go outside Switzerland, and now we start to think, but we have to do some split about what is a priority to stay in Switzerland. And I think this also helps to have trust, because when you have employees, people that are local and supporting users in Switzerland, then each one understand better each other. So our employees will understand better the clients, the Swiss clients, the expectation, the exigence, and I think that's very important to not to outsource everything.
Did that also influence your fundraising situation, or how did investors react to the very Swiss-focused approach?
Well, I have to say we never raised money. Everything is bootstrapped.
Yeah.
However, scale for investor is very sexy. So, of course, they prefer a product that is scalable. They just think about the numbers and how you scale it. So that could be maybe a stop for them. But since we did not really actively look for fundraiser, that was not a blocker for us.
And I guess it's also a question, right? As soon as you go into other markets, then that may be also an entry point to find investors from these countries.
Yes.
But like you said before, I guess especially for partners and for clients, it's a good story to be so local and to have that trust.
And it's rare, actually. Most of I believe that most of the companies, they try to always optimize cost with the internationalization. So when there is maybe a company that is more local, then it's an advantage, I would say, for the users, and easier to trust. It's easier to trust.
What is it like for you, Milan, or for Nextesy generally? Did you already have a certain setup from the beginning to be able to go internationally quickly?
I would say not in terms of legal setup. Like that's not the thing you think about when you're founding a company. You just want to kickstart, start developing the product. And I mean, Switzerland, I think, relatively speaking, is a good kind of legislative environment where you can kickstart, where you can move later, and that wasn't kind of the primary concern once we started the company, even though we were thinking already about like where we can take this next. But when you come to that problem, like you bridge it fast. Like usually you come to that problem when you're already a big company in Switzerland. So then you have solutions to these kind of, let's say, quote unquote problems. I think also my founders came from experience in kind of building businesses across countries. So that doesn't really become a topic until you really start going to other markets. I would say we mostly focused on it product-wise. In terms of, yes, we adapt to the Swiss market and the needs, but we always have in the back of our heads, how can this be easily adapted across the chain? And again, coming from industry, basically my co-founder that is leading the product design and everything, he has experience implementing these kind of systems in over 80 countries, leading big teams. And I would say from that configuration, you have it in the back of your mind to kind of make it configurable for start. Because then when you move outside Swiss market, you have less friction and adaptation to go through rather if you put something really rigidly. So I think we more thought about it on the product side rather than the kind of legislative side or the structure, because that thing kind of adapts fast. I mean, sometimes it's a very known story. Like if you start growing, if you enter the US market, if you go to the US investors, they more often than not ask you to do a Delaware Corp, right? So then you worry about that, right?
And now that you talked about this, what would you say, Milan, is the biggest risk of expanding too late?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think if you don't board the train on time, it just leaves the station, right? So everybody's bam, right?
What a metaphor.
Bam. I think basically we're not the only ones doing it. Like people are thinking about it. I think at this point we are unique in a form that we are doing it very, very holistically. Like we're covering more functionalities rather than going with one functionality and then integrating with the others. And I think this is the right way to solve the problem. And we have a huge advantage doing this for 2.5 years now on the product side. But if you wait for too long, then you leave more space for a market to fill. Because especially in today's world, like it's very, and in software, like software you cannot protect with IP. You just need to go and execute. And I think that's where we are really good at, building product at light speed and building good product. And we need to kind of time it well, because there is a risk of going too late, but there is also a risk of going too early. If you spread yourself too thin at the beginning, then you're nowhere. I think, Habiba, you mentioned this also at the beginning. So I would say you shouldn't wait for too much, but you also can do it in steps. Like we fully plan on doing first the POCs, seeing which market actually fits the best. Because Europe in itself is a big market, and due to regulatory frameworks, like every market, country is specific in itself.
Yep.
So we do deep analysis on each market, on the competition, on the structure, and we would go with kind of proof of concepts to test our hypothesis, and then go into this market. So with this kind of proof and doing actions, you shouldn't wait too long, because I think action always provides you more information. If you're thinking about international, the sooner you start doing something about it, the more you learn.
Yep.
And then the faster you will be in the future. That doesn't mean that you should, let's say, raise around and say, I go for German market and spend 5 million on it before you even build a foundation in Switzerland. So that's there are different things like of what means too late. I would say first kind of test it, do action all the time, learn. When you see it's going, then you need to catch the train. Right?
Would you agree with that, Habiba? Or maybe on the opposite, like what would you say is the risk of like being too early?
Well, I think my grandfather told me one day, first try to learn how to walk before running. And
that's with the metaphors, people. One after the other. Really good.
And I
Very
think it
good.
applies to startup. I think the biggest risk is to run before learning how to walk, and opening, being international or being it does not mean just opening to new countries. As I said, it's better to be really strong in one market than very weak in 10. I think it's the biggest risk is just to fail a bit everywhere, and that means a lot of cost as well, and to fail faster, because opening to new countries it has cost and more risk. So it's very important first to have clients coming back locally, and you prove that your product works well locally, than just to have flags on your map.
Before we finish with the interview, and I ask you the last question that I will ask both of you, I would actually just love to know what is happening next in both of your companies. What's the immediate next thing that you're currently working on, or that you want to work on with HappyPot?
That's very funny because it's related to the topic. We are trying to expand actually in new markets.
That's cool.
I was hesitating to say.
So you know how to walk.
Yes, now that I know how to walk. And of course DACH. I think Germany is also very difficult and very big market, and this will take a lot of time, but that's our next challenge.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And what is it for you?
For Nextesy, I would say 3 things. Growing in Switzerland. We're planning out a new product line, which will basically be kind of market agnostic, and already doing proof of concepts in other market to see which one works as well. And the third part is just what we have been doing 2.5 years. It's relentless execution on the product. I think we already own the best tech asset in Switzerland in this space, and it's not enough. It's going to be 10 times better than that. Well, so yeah.
Nice. Excited to see for both of you, what's happening. And I would love to finish this episode with asking both of you, for all the listeners that we have and maybe upcoming founders or people that are already like in it and deciding which way to go, what would you say if you would have to advise a founder today? What is one question that they should ask themselves before moving forward?
One question will be, or my customer asking me to be somewhere else, because I think expansion does not fix a weak product, and it should not come from ego. It should come from demand, actually.
It's a good one.
I agree with that. It's a really good one. I think like the main question you need to ask yourself, both on a personal and a professional level, whether it makes sense. Because there are businesses that are really cut out for international scale, and there are some that are really not. And if you already have this burden at the beginning where you're trying to push internationally a business which wasn't meant to be pushed internationally due to, I don't know, some unsurmountable hurdles, then you're failing. And it also needs to be a personal fit, because if you're scaling internationally, you need to have a certain degree of kind of mindset and flexibility. For example, going internationally for us also means that tomorrow I might need to pack my bags and go to Berlin or London or New York, and then I'm fully ready for this. But I think that is something what needs to be kind of settled with yourself before you think about which type of company you want to build.
Before you wonder which train board.
Yes, exactly.
And then walk to the station or from the station. Thank you so much, both of you, for your insights. It was really interesting, and I'm super excited to see what happens with both HappyPot and Nextesy.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
amazing.
invitation.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.